It's called drifting.
What do you mean, drift?
The cars are lighter. The tires are slick. When you drift, if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control. Still need a dictionary?
On the other side of the world, on the wrong side of the law, a new style of racing rules the Tokyo underground.
How you guys get away with this?
And all the best drivers want in.
Who's a tourist?
Let's see what the kids got.
Then let's race.
But when you live on the edge, anything can happen.
You came to the wrong place.
Now, in a place where life moves this fast,
That's a lot of money.
Hey, you're moving up in the world. You gotta elevate your company.
the bigger the risk, the greater the rush.
Stay away from them. All my life, people have told me I don't fit in. Maybe I've just been in the wrong place.
Hey, look, what's up? Woo! Almost over now.
Life's simple. Make choices. Don't look back.
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
But you don't have to ever quit. Keep going and taking no more, since it's almost over now. Almost over now.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of BAMB exclamation point the pod. We are the Bad Action. We talk about bad action movies. Sometimes we just talk about movies. This week we have a guest with us. We have my friend Curtis here. Say hello, Curtis.
Oh, Curtis.
And of course, as always, we have my Brian. Brian, say
hello.
And if you didn't know my name is Brad, aka Braden, and we have an exciting. Well, I feel like every episode is exciting, but I think this is going to be a good one because we have discussed the film Fast and Furious many times throughout our various podcasts. We're not doing that film, but we are doing a film in that series. We're going to be talking about Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and I'm pretty excited about this one.
Yeah. It's kind of like the black sheep of the Fast and Furious movies, I think.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one, and I will be honest when I say that I actually had never watched this one start to finish before until I actually did so specifically for this podcast.
Oh, okay.
And this is a selection that actually Curtis had made, although I my understanding is that you actually like this movie. Is that correct?
I think this movie's dope.
And you like it as well, is that correct,
I
Brian?
do. I actually like this one quite a bit more than some of the other ones.
And after watching it, I'm going to say I'm kind of a fan myself. But I have a lot to say about this one, which is going to be interesting. But as always, we like to make drinks, and I had several drinks already tonight. And I think you're with us on that one, Brian. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So this is either going to be the greatest podcast we've ever recorded or the worst, or maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, could be.
Be both. We are filming some video, so this can go up on the YouTube. We've been doing that lately. I don't know how that's going to work with the split screen. We got Curtis here and myself, so we have two people in the video. Hopefully we both show up. Now, I don't know about you, Brian. At least visually, you're frozen on my computer. So, but
we'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, maybe it'll just end up being an audio version, but or maybe you'll click in because sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with the video feed. Can you see us okay though?
Yeah, I can see you fine.
Okay, great. So we have some drinks in our hands. We'll put them up here. Cheers. Do you have a drink as well that you're drinking?
I do.
Do you want to tell us about what you are drinking?
Sure. So I made kind of like a gin and tonic, but I was trying to go with a little bit of the Japanese flair.
Yeah.
Because this is Tokyo Drift, and for people who don't know, Tokyo is in Japan. So what I did is I made kind of like a gin and tonic. I used a farmer's gin that I have. It's a organic gin. It's pretty good.
Fancy.
Not my favorite gin, but I do enjoy it. I put some black cherry juice. I put some ginger.
Okay.
I put some lemon.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rimmed my glass and I added a little bit of honey.
Anytime someone says rimmed, I immediately goes dirty for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
me too.
You know, it's a bit on the tart side, so I wanted to.
That's usually how that goes.
That's true, or salty. But I wanted to add some sweetness to it. So and honey doesn't mix in well with cold drinks. It just sort of turns into a glop.
You've had that problem before, if I remember.
Yeah,
on the
I continue to try to mix honey into things.
Have you tried the agave nectar? Because I feel like that's a better mixing.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I have tried agave nectar in other things. I haven't tried mixing it in drinks, so that's something I may try in the future.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit less glumpy in the cold beverage.
But it's tasty.
Good. Well,
and then of course I topped it with the tonic water. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Mm-hmm. So Curtis and I, we like whiskey, and unfortunately, we did not have a Japanese whiskey in the whiskey cabinet at the moment, because that would have been the optimal choice. Because there are a lot of great Japanese whiskeys out there.
Sure.
But sometimes you just got to go with what you got in the liquor cabinet. So we kind of did the other spin, because for anyone that's seen the Tokyo Drift movie, which hopefully you have, because it is kind of a classic, they will know that the lead character in this film, I can't remember, I'm looking him up right now.
Sean Boswell is the character name. The actor's name is Lucas Black. And he was supposed to be from the South, right? Like, he has a strong Southern accent.
Right.
Yeah, he's very much a Southern gentleman. He's supposed to be a high school kid, which we'll talk about that. I have a lot to say about that one. But so what I did do is I pulled out the Tennessee whiskey. Now, of course, Jack Daniel's is the most famous of Tennessee whiskeys. But what I'm a big fan of is the George Dickel 12. And I actually, because we have the video feed, I can kind of show you here. I don't know if you can see. I actually have a George Dickel tattoo over here on my shoulder.
Right on your bosom?
Yeah, and there's actually an interesting story about this I was telling Curtis about before we started this, so I'll share it with you real quickly. Is originally, this was going to be a Jack Daniel's tattoo, because we grew up in Tennessee. We both were born in Memphis. Oh, there you are. You're on the live feed now. I can see your video.
Now.
Great. So I wanted to get a Jack Daniel's tattoo because I love whiskey and I'm from Tennessee. So I scheduled this appointment to go to the tattoo parlor and have this tattoo completed. And then my wife, she just had this idea of I would like to know more about Jack Daniel's. And she started to research Jack Daniel's, and she came to find out that actually, apparently, the gentleman who actually developed the Jack Daniel's whiskey, and when it was the master distiller for Jack Daniel's for years, was actually an African-American gentleman who was formerly a slave. That got employed by Jack Daniel's and the Jack Daniel's, whiskey company. And he has basically been one of these individuals who's been largely erased from history. Of course, Jack Daniels gets credit because he bottled the whiskey and mass produced it and sold it. And she's like, I don't want you getting that racist asshole tattooed to your body. So I agreed. And then at that point in time, I decided to go with a George Dickel tattoo because at least as far as my research could show, there was no sordid history behind him. Now, who knows? I mean, anytime you're dealing with a white person from like the 1850s, you're probably
So dicey. It's dicey territory right there.
Yeah, but at least in terms of documented history, we don't really know about a whole lot about George Dickel. And truthfully, the company was bought out by another conglomerate, and they just used the name, although the whiskey is still made in Tennessee. So my tattoo is representational of whiskey. It's representational of the state of Tennessee. And I'm going to be honest with you, I do love Jack Daniels, but the George Dickel 12 is actually a better whiskey, in my opinion. What do you think, Curtis? Are you enjoying it?
I really like it. I've never had it before. It's very tasty, very kind of smooth, but it still has some character to it.
Yeah, I think it's a better whiskey. So if you like Tennessee whiskey, if you like Jack Daniels, try your George Dickel products. They're really excellent.
I actually have a Lucas Black tattoo. It's on my penis, so I won't show you.
Thank God.
But that's not true. That's not true.
Oh man. Okay, this is gonna be a fun one.
I don't like this movie. I don't like the movie that much.
But you do like it.
But I do enjoy the movie. Yeah.
So I have a confession to make. Curtis picked this one, even though, like I said, he does like this movie, and we are very clear when we talk about our podcast, and we say bad action movies, we don't necessarily mean that it's a bad movie, because sometimes bad is awesome, like Michael Jackson or Shaft.
Is Michael Jackson's? I don't know if he's which way he's bad nowadays, though.
That's true. Valid.
I mean, lately,
that the HBO documentary has
pivot.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean in terms of the lingo of bad.
Yes.
So this is one of those movies that maybe falls into those categories. I'm glad we're talking about some, or I should say, a movie in the Fast and Furious series, and this is certainly the obvious choice because it is, like you said, kind of the wild card, the outlier, the black sheep, or however you want to discuss it. I have a lot to say about this film, and I just want to start by saying this: I had never watched this film start to finish before. I probably had seen pieces of it. I kind of had dismissed it because I'm like, well, it's not got Paul Walker in it. It's not got Vin Diesel. Oh, wait. Now I realize it does, but we'll have to talk about that. But it's sort of a, I don't know, it seemed like it was sort of like a straight to video kind of version of the Fast and Furious genre. But I do feel like it's an important film for several reasons. Firstly, I want to mention this on the front end. The original Fast and Furious movies, I feel like, were a trilogy. Even though they have like a bazillion Fast and Furious movies now. But the reason I do feel like the original films, the first three, were a trilogy is because, truthfully, those first three films were not about a star, a person, in terms of a Vin Diesel or a Paul Walker or whoever the guys you have tattooed to your penis. They were about the cars. They're movies about cars. The cars were the stars of the show. So it really didn't matter who was in the films. And I feel like that's true with this movie, although I didn't mind the people in the film. But the thing that's really interesting to me about this movie is this is a movie about high schoolers.
In theory, supposedly.
And I just want to, we've talked briefly about this. I used to teach high school. Okay, so I have my fair share of experience dealing with the high school age bracket. And there's certain themes that I have seen ring true of the high school genre of filmmaking, of movies. Okay, so firstly, you're going to have a movie that supposedly takes place in high school and involves high schoolers. Okay, but these people playing the high schoolers are probably, as a net average, going to be older than any teacher actually teaching high school. And I actually found that to be true because when I was teaching high school, I remember this just happened to coincide with when they did the sort of revamp of 90210. I don't know if you knew that happened, but they had like a revamping of 90210 in the 2000s, and it came on my television. And of course, I grew up in you as well in the 90s, and so I grew up watching 90210, and I was like, oh, they're redoing this, and I watched it. And the interesting thing was, I'm like watching this, and I'm like, the kids in this show seem like they're older than me. And so I started doing like a little research where I like looked them up, and turns out, do you know who the youngest cast member in that show was? I only watched one episode, so I'm not talking like I know the show, but I just looked up their ages. The youngest cast member in that show, the new, was the guy playing the teacher.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, here's a fun fact. I know for a fact that you watched more than one episode because one time you came to my house and we got milkshakes and bought matching Transformers jammies.
What even is this?
And watched 90210, the new version.
Hold up.
How did I forget this? I remember the Transformer jammies. I definitely remember Code House, but I did not remember that we watched 90210. But
we did.
That's awesome. That's a great story that I forgot that piece of the puzzle. But that's great.
We went and bought matching jammies as adult men and got milkshakes and watched the new 90210.
We had a girl date.
We did. This was many years ago, mind you.
But we were still probably well into adulthood.
But it did happen.
So anyways, I'm glad that story just happened, although I have very, very narrow recollection of it. I do remember getting milkshakes and buying Transformers jammies, but I did not remember that 90210 was involved. But so here's my thing about the high school movie. So you and I, and Curtis, you grew up in a little bit of a different era, but I want to get your feedback on this. You and I, Brian, we grew up on the classic 80s films. Okay.
The John Hughes.
Yeah. There's some great high school movies of the 80s. And I'm going to bring up like three.
So like what? Like you're talking about like a Ferris Bueller, a Breakfast Club. You know, what else are we talking
Well, I'm thinking of three specifically.
Okay, which one?
And I'm going to tell you. Number one, Karate Kid.
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
I pretty much learned how to do karate watching that movie, by the way.
Yeah, you paint the fence.
I mean,
that
that was what was so great about the movie is you came out of that movie, and if you were like 12 or 13, you pretty much were a karate expert by the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Valid point.
Or at least you thought you were.
Yeah. It was like a training tool as well as a karate movie.
Then you go to crane and kick somebody in real life, and you realize they can easily just punch you in the face while you're doing that silly pose. Yeah.
Can defend, right? Can defend. So Karate Kid comes to mind. Another one that's a personal favorite of mine, which I was telling Curtis as we were dialoguing before this podcast about our conservative upbringing and how we both went to a college where we weren't allowed to dance.
No.
And so that brings up, of course, the film Footloose.
Yeah.
Okay. So another classic 80s high school film. And then, did you want to say something, Curtis?
Hold up. So y'all both went to this school?
Yes.
We both attended the college.
Yes.
And then the third film that I'm thinking, which is another favorite, and is a theme of discussion that will come up again soon in our next podcast, and it's vampires, and that's the film The Lost Boys, which is another personal favorite. Now, these are all great films of the 80s. They all take place in high school. They all have fantastic soundtracks, too, by the way. Some great music. But here's the thing that I've learned as a student of these high school 80s films, okay? And I want you to stick with me with this as we transition into Tokyo Drift. One, you're going to have a guy that's probably like 30 years old playing a high school kid, okay?
Well, and as Curtis mentioned, Ferris Bueller.
Yes.
You had
yes.
a very adult Matthew Broderick. And of course, when I think of 80s high school movies, Back to the Future.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Michael J. Fox. Yes.
He was like 20. He was
You
like
had
24 then.
A very adult Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the first thing, but there's more. Just stick with me here. The thing that I notice is that there's going to be a new kid, and he's going to have to move into town.
Yeah.
He's going to have some kind of backstory.
Those
whether
new kids are always moving into town.
Whether it's his mom just got divorced,
They're just
or,
hanging tough.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They got the right stuff. if
Yeah.
you will. And so, they move into town, and there's some kind of tragic backstory. Okay. And what happens to the new kid is that here's the thing in the high school movie.
None of them have dads either.
No. And there's one hot girl. There's always the quintessential hot girl. And here's the thing about the hot girl. She's going to be dating the bad boy.
Who plays a sport.
Yeah. So whatever the theme of the movie is, that guy is going to be the best at it in town.
It's true.
Okay.
It's true.
And she's going to be dating that guy who's the best at it in town. And the new guy, the whole movie is going to be the new guy is got to prove that he's better than the best guy in town at doing the thing that the movie's about.
Can I just bring up Teen Wolf?
Teen Wolf is another perfect example.
Possibly my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's a good one. And again, this fits the mold.
Pretty much.
So as I'm watching Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift for the first time, never having seen this movie before, I, of course, immediately noticed something that I've noticed about all the Fast and Furious movies, which is that they took the script from somewhere else and just retooled it.
Like, I've seen this movie so many times.
Exactly. And we've talked about how Fast and Furious, the original, was just Point Break. They just took Point Break and they're like, instead of surfboards, we're doing cars. So this one was like, instead of Footloose dancing, instead of a dance scene with endless glitter, we're going to have Tokyo drifting.
Yeah.
Instead of a karate tournament where we throw in a crane kick, we're going to have Tokyo drifting.
But those other movies did not have Bow Wow in it, so we're already talking about different territory right here. So I don't even know why you're putting third on my movie's name right now.
Which I'm glad you mentioned Bow Wow, because in the credits, he's listed as Bow Wow. And what immediately came to my mind as a person who's a slightly older and maybe not aware of what was going on.
Is he not little anymore?
He's not little, no. But
No.
here's the thing. So, like, I was thinking, watching this film, and again, going on with my point that, like, these people are all, like, young adults. Should not he have been a medium Bow Wow?
Maybe young Bow Wow.
Yeah,
A
I
young
thought
Bow Wow?
medium was appropriate because you have the little and then you have like a medium. Like now, I feel like in
They're
2000,
all little now. They're all little.
that's true. But I feel like now, as probably like a man in his like 40s, he can be Bow Wow.
He's not 40. He's like my age. He's like 32.
Okay, I don't know. Google him.
That's still fair.
Google him. I don't know. But anyways, he was just Bow Wow in this film. But the most favorite.
What happened to Master P? Because for a minute, right?
For a hot minute.
Yeah.
For a hot minute.
Master P.
They could say, oh.
So, but I don't know. So I've watched this recently. You and Curtis have not watched it as recently, but you've watched the film before.
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to remind you that before this film goes to Tokyo and the drifting begins, before, what's his name? Daniel has to learn the karate or whatever. The guy becomes the vampire or the Kevin Bacon learns to dance. There's in this film, at least, there's a little bit of a pre-opening sequence. And this sequence is our lead character getting in a car race with Zachary Ty Bryant of Home Improvement fame, who, unfortunately for him, has never played another part other than the high school douchebag.
Yeah.
And I guess he's just good at it.
I mean, I think he just is a character actor at this point, right?
Yes. And of course, he's the guy has the hot girlfriend who's good at the thing.
Right.
And this thing is racing cars. But if you remember this scene, and maybe you don't, so I'm gonna remind you.
Please do.
They get in a race in a new subdivision that's building homes.
I do remember. Mm-hmm.
And they actually, at one point, drive their cars through houses that are being built.
I remember that.
But first of all, let's not forget that our lead character cheats to win the race by not even following the track. He cuts through the homes, which I'm thinking like, okay, so he's not only an asshole, he's a cheater, which kind of gets to the sort of reimagining or deconstruction of the Ralph Macchio Daniel character in Karate Kid. When you go back and watch that, you're like, this kid's the asshole.
Yeah.
It's not Johnny.
No.
Like Johnny's just like, dude, why are you coming into my town being a dick?
Right.
like back off. Like
Just coming in and being a shower curtain.
Yeah, he's like, you couldn't leave well enough alone, if I remember the line correctly. So the same way, this guy couldn't leave well enough alone, so he cheats. But more importantly, beyond all the racing scene, the destruction, the fact that these kids are supposed to be whatever, 16, 17, 18, I don't know, who have these cars and they're racing these things at God knows what speeds through a subdivision that's undeveloped. That wasn't even important to me. Okay. What was important to me was the Limp Bizkit underscore.
We're still dealing with Limp Bizkit here?
Now, and immediately, I was like, wait. What year did this movie come out? Because I still think of this as a newer film. That shows how old I am. This movie came out in 2006. And the thing about 2006 is that Limp Bizkit was really cool for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think this is still after, because let's see, I graduated high school in 2005. Limp Bizkit was big when I was in middle school. So I don't think they were still even in like the conversation at this point.
Well, they were in the movie, and they were racing to roll, let's roll, let's roll, let's roll, Limp Bizkit, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't heard this song since TRL was a thing, since people cared who Carson Daly was, since he was being included in Eminem rap songs.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is really poignant.
Since Christina Aguilera could fit in the bottle.
That's right.
Ooh.
Exactly. So that's the opening sequence. Now, of course, it doesn't go bad, or doesn't go well. It goes bad, and of course, our protagonist or antagonist, I don't know what the hell he is at this point. He gets sent off to Japan to live with his father because he's a troubled teen, and that's where the plot picks up, I guess, for the majority of the movie. But here's the other thing about this film that I have just recently come to learn because I watched this. And so I'm spoiler on the front end. I want to talk about the end of this movie first, which is we're going to go Tarantino style here, if you will. Vin Diesel comes back in this movie.
Yeah.
Right?
And like a Marvel type like tag at the end, like they're like, oh hey, we're linking it back.
Right. And from what I read on the interweb, they realized that this didn't have the pull, I don't know, the box office pull.
And all the stuff, that stuff. Yep.
The star power, because they didn't have Paul Walker and didn't have Vin Diesel. So they really requested that Vin Diesel come back and do this film. Now, Vin Diesel made a deal with the folks at the studio. Do you know about this deal, Brian?
I remember, but I already finished my drink, so I forgot.
Okay.
But I feel like he wanted to like do a different movie if he would make an appearance in this one or something like that.
You're on the right track. Curtis, do you know this?
Uh-uh.
So Vin Diesel said he would come back at the very end of this film and do the cameo appearance, if they would relinquish the rights to the Chronicles of Riddick series. Yes, and give it to him. So he'd already done Pitch Black. He'd already done Chronicles of Riddick. they didn't want to, I guess, move forward with it, or they didn't want to do. So they gave that, and he owned the rights. So the third movie, which came out a few years ago, he completely made that himself, financed it himself, started it himself. That was his complete film because he owned the rights because he did this one appearance in Tokyo Drift.
Interesting.
That's the movie he wanted to like get the rights for, like out of all the things, like Riddick.
Well, this is Vin Diesel we're talking about. So anyways, that's why he makes his appearance there. Okay, but as a result of that, okay, this is what it gets to my point, my talking point here, my soapbox. They then incorporate these characters, particularly the I guess he's the second character to the Lucas Black Sean Boswell character, who is other than Shad Moss, aka Little Bow Wow, aka Medium Bow Wow, aka Bow Wow. Yes, the character of Han.
Han's the shit.
Yeah, who is the best character in the film? I feel like. I'm trying to find the actor. Do you know the actor's name?
It's some name, and I'm probably racist for not remembering.
Yeah. Anyways, they bring him into the other Fast and Furious movies, right? He's in like Fast. I don't know if he's in Fast 5, but he's in the more recent ones. In order to make that make sense, okay, after I think it's Faster and Furious 7, he goes back to Tokyo. So the actual claim is that this movie, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, takes place in the future. So that while the film is filmed in 2006, it's actually supposed to be setting place in 2013, maybe 2000. I don't know. In order for it to fit with the chronological Fast and Furious storyline.
That's right. Yep.
Here's the thing. Okay. Watching this recently, this movie is so 2006. There is no way in Hades that this is 2013, because not only is there a Limp Bizkit opening race scene, there's classic lines where our protagonist meets the villain of the film. I can't remember his name either. Who's he's the Drift King, DK, right? The Drift King. Yeah. And he's like, "Do you know who I am?" Because he's connected to the Japanese mob. And he's like, in his southern accent, he's like, "I don't know. You must be who are you, like the Justin Timberlake of Japan?" Now, I'm pretty certain that no 18-year-old in 2013 is going to compare the cool kid to Justin Timberlake. No offense to Justin Timberlake, because I like him, but Justin Timberlake is very 2006. And then, of course, there's other lines like, what's his name? You said his name is Quan? What's his name?
Han. Like Han Solo.
Thank you. I'm sorry. This was my first time viewing, so I'm not as sharp. Good. Han makes I guess seemingly clever / high school lines. And again, this is another high school observation, is high school is only 4 years. So
for most people.
That's true. That's true. So it's a very specific time frame. If you don't fit in that time frame, the references are gone. And he says things like, "I don't care if you're making out with Beyonce. When I call you, you're there." Now, again, Beyonce, beautiful woman, talented, maybe more famous now than she was in 2006, but not the teen icon that she would have been in 2006, where she was Destiny's Child, of an age that a young 18-year-old would be fantasizing about making out with her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is a very 2006 film that was like, oh, shit. We don't fit the timeline.
Everything you're saying just makes this movie better.
I agree.
But I did
better for this reason.
But I did actually like the movie. It was fun. So I'm gonna pass it over to Curtis for a minute so I can drink more Tennessee whiskey, and I want him to tell me what he loves or hates about this movie. Do it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what do I love about this movie? Okay, I'm gonna admit it's been a while since I've seen it, so I have to go on memory. But I do remember all the racing and what seemingly were like parking garages and like all the drifts. And like I'm not a big car guy, and this movie kind of made me feel like I should be, and that's what I liked about it. And like the other Fast and Furious movies really never did that for me, but this one I was like, yo, I really need to go to Japan right quick, and like go to like some kind of Japanese high school and like really do this up. I'm really messing my whole life up because I'm not drifting on parking garages. So like.
Now, Brian, you said that you actually like this one.
I do.
A little bit this way towards me. You actually like this one maybe more than some of the others. Tell me why you like it so much.
So I guess because the first movie was what it was, and it's sort of a classic, I guess. Now it must be, since they've made so many of them. But like you've said, and like we've talked about before, it was basically Point Break with cars. The second movie was fun, but of any of them that I was gonna go back and rewatch, it probably wouldn't be Too Fast, Too Furious. Because I mean, the title alone is amazing. It had its moments, but probably not the one I'm going to revisit. I guess just because this one was different, and because it was kind of like an 80s high school movie, like you mentioned. I liked that about it. And I feel like this movie was actually maybe more about the racing, whereas the first movie was more about like the relationships of the character and like the cool car scenes it was almost about like the heists.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of the other Fast and Furious movies, they're basically like heist movies with cars. Whereas Tokyo Drift, not only did the setting drastically change, the style of the racing I think was interesting. With the drift racing, it was very different than like the muscle cars they had in the first couple movies and most of the ones after. And just the fact that it was more, I felt a little more about the racing itself.
Now, if I hear what you're saying, and I'm in agreement with you and Curves on this, I think the point that you're trying to make is that the Tokyo racing actually requires skill. whereas like, so the first Fast and Furious movie is a very American-based film, and it's based off drag racing. And there's not they play it off as though, you got to know when you hit the nitrous oxide, or whatever, which is, I'm not going to say that that's not true, but mostly it's just hitting the pedal and just trying to go as fast as you can for a quarter mile, right? Vin Diesel, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. So that there's not a lot of actual skill. Whereas in this, you actually have to be a good driver. Yeah, because you act this, and I will admit, yes, absolutely. And that's the thing I loved about this, is there was some really, really cool driving in this film. Now, in the second film, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag here, and everyone in the world who listens to this is going to hate me. So I'm going to be the martyr here. I love Too Fast, Too Furious.
Why are you like this? Who made you like this?
Okay, I love this film because, one, it takes place in South Florida, which is where I currently live. Two, it has Eva Mendes in it. I'm sorry. Do I need to say more? It's got Eva Mendes in it.
You can say how like most of the racing is all CG based.
Yeah, they drive a car onto a boat, which happens in Gator, by the way, which we've talked about before. Although that happens for real.
Yeah,
they do it CGI wise. That movie is absurd. It's ridiculous, but I love that movie because it's ridiculous in my opinion in all the right ways. And to me, that film predicts the way the series goes. The first film tried to kind of be realistic. The second film was absurd. The third film was really more just about really cool stunt driving. Then when you get like The Fast and The Furious, which is when they bring back Paul Walker, they bring back Vin Diesel.
So actually, the first one's The Fast and the Furious, and then the fourth one is Fast and Furious.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you for the clarification. I got confused there. Whatever. But Fast 5 and forward, they basically become like superheroes.
Right.
Where they can just like, it's not even really about racing. It's just about superhumans with cool cars.
Family, bro.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like Too Fast, Too Furious may have been the, I don't know, kind of the precursor, the prequel to that, because I don't know. But I like that.
Here's what I think. Too Fast, Too Furious, they just blew their load.
That's why I love it.
And then they had to scale it back from there a little bit.
But well, I feel like the actual stunt driving is better in Tokyo Drift.
I'm just saying Too Fast, Too Furious goes like way farther into camp, which I get your point.
Yes,
I get
absolutely.
your point. But I feel like it was sort of like, Vin Diesel didn't come back.
No.
He didn't feel the need to. They're like, well, we can do stuff with Paul Walker. It'll be fine. And then, well, we still made a lot of money on that first one. You got to make a third one, which nobody came back for. And then because Vin Diesel does make his little cameo, maybe he got enough positive feedback from that. They thought, okay, let's bring it back around.
So at that time, you got to remember, like, they thought both him and Paul Walker, they thought they were going to pop off. Like, they were like, oh, we're going to be above this franchise. Turns out that didn't happen. So, like, after the third Fast and Furious one, they were like, trying to get their thing back. Like, they came to the realization this is going to be our thing. So that's how they get involved back into that. Like, and I don't think it was like any strategic thing. I just think it was like, oh, hey, this is going to work out for us.
Yeah, no one would hire them. Yeah. And I will say this. Well, and again, I'm going back to Too Fast and Too Furious. Yeah, Vin Diesel wasn't in it, but I feel like realistically, now again, I know that he wasn't in it because he thought he was better than it, and he thought, I'm going to do on better things. But realistically, that's actually a probably more true to life story, because what are the likelihood of that a guy who's a wanted criminal by everyone on Earth is going to just like start showing up racing again in America? Not very likely. So I thought actually if you really
obviously very likely because they made like 1 million more of them.
Yes, okay. But so that's why I like Too Fast and Too Furious, is it doesn't take that road. But yeah, I completely agree with Curtis that these guys, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, realize no one else is going to hire them. Which brings me to another talking point, which is probably why I like Too Fast and Too Furious, is that, and I'm going to get you guys' opinion on this. I don't like Vin Diesel. And what I've heard is he is a complete asshole and impossible to work with. And what I'm saying by what I've heard, I'm talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And what he says in a Rolling Stone interview, and he's been very, very vocal about this. And if you watch the more recent Fast and Furious movies where he's in, the original appearance where Dwayne Johnson came in, I can't remember which Fast and Furious it was because there's like 1 million of them. Oh, go ahead, Curtis. What do you say?
Five. It's Fast 5.
Okay. They were on screen together because, of course, it was the epic. We're going to have Vin Diesel battle it out with Dwayne Johnson. After that, they've like hardly ever been on screen together. Mm-hmm. And that's because The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, hates Vin Diesel. Because Vin Diesel is apparently a just diva. He's just a diva on set. He never shows up on time. Apparently, he just sits in his trailer and does like karaoke. He just does karaoke in his trailer, and he never shows up on time. And like Dwayne Johnson's one of these guys who gets up at like 4:30 in the morning. He's doing like his like cardio workouts, like pumping iron, ready to like get his shit done because he's got like 20 other million things he's doing. He's like, where the hell is this guy? And so they don't like each other. And that's why they actually did this spinoff where it's going to be him and Jason Statham as like a new. And apparently the Fast and Furious is going to have its like own universe, kind of like Marvel. But like I guess there's like the Tyrese Gibson like Vin Diesel group, and then there's like the Jason Statham like Dwayne Johnson group, and they don't get along. And of course, Paul Walker seemed to be the mediator, I guess. Side note, which is really interesting, and this is before Paul Walker even passed away, sadly. I was watching the I don't know what it is, background, what do you call it? Like the special features. Thank you. There it is. of Too Fast, Too Furious, the best Fast and Furious film, whatever you guys have to say.
So aggressive.
And the guy that they were talking to, the guy who is the person who's the professional stunt driver trainer. And he was saying that Paul Walker was so good at driving cars by the time they finished Too Fast and Too Furious that he would like compete or on an equal level of any professional driver that he worked with. And it's interesting because when I heard that Paul Walker died in a car accident, I said he wasn't driving. And I was right. He had his friend, he was in a Porsche that he owned. He had his friend who was, I guess, I don't know what he did, but someone he knew who worked in the business as well, driving his Porsche, and that was the person who crashed the vehicle. And I said, Paul Walker would never do that. There's a scene of Too Fast, Too Furious when Paul Walker, he's driving the vehicle, and he basically, there's a slide where he pulls it. It's kind of a Tokyo Drift moment, pre-Tokyo Drift, where he slides up into, there's a crowd of people, and it's like the very beginning of the film. He's like winning the race, and he slides the vehicle right up into the crowd, and he does like the window's down, and he does like a look into the camera. And the camera guy said, I can't do this without Paul Walker in the vehicle. How are we going to do this? Because normally it'd be a stunt driver. And Paul Walker's like, no, I got this.
Oh, shit.
And he did it on the first take.
Wow.
And this was with live people in the crowd. He literally pulled that vehicle up, hit the brakes, pulled the clutch, and just slid that thing right into place, right into camera on the first take. And the guy said, I was like, oh, shit. Like, this guy's better than any of my drivers at driving these vehicles. So shout out to Paul Walker for that. Maybe not the greatest of actors, but the dude could drive a car. So that's pretty cool. And that's, again, why I like
cool.
I like Too Fast, Too Furious, because it put Paul Walker in the front seat. It made him the lead. And I'll take him over Vin Diesel.
I'll tell you why I didn't like Too Fast, Too Furious.
You're wrong.
It was dumb. And it sucks.
Sorry, but you're wrong.
No, Brian's absolutely correct, but I'll let you cook on this one.
I feel like you and Curtis are like teaming up against me.
Me and Brian, we're kindred spirits.
I get it. Yeah.
I love Too Fast. I'm going to say two words again. Eva Mendes. I don't know why do I need to say more than that? But anyways, what are we talking about? Tokyo Drift. Yeah. Tokyo Drift. So I did think it was a decent movie. I did like I felt like the fact that it was a high school movie was ridiculous. Of course, what's his name? Bow Wow. He's like, what is he? He sells things illegally, gets himself into trouble. There's this whole tie to like the Japanese mafia. It gets ridiculous beyond belief. But the stunt driving was pretty cool. Them going up the ramps and actually running what we would consider a Gran Turismo course. Mm-hmm. So if you know anything about race car driving, certainly in America we have NASCAR, which is they just go in a circle, and then of course the old historical sort of American racing is just the quarter mile Vin Diesel style. But in Europe, where they really race cars, which is where you really get all your great automobiles, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches. It's Gran Turismo racing, which is actually what GT stands for. I don't know if you know that. The Mustang GT. GT stands for Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo Omologato, which is an Italian phrase, which is actually track racing. And this is where American muscle doesn't compete because it has to do more with braking and turning, traction, than just straight speed. And I shout out to Tokyo Drift because that's what they did capture. And that's something that had been missing from the previous Fast and Furious movies, is this idea of actually being able to move around a track. And it's not just about going from point A to point B as fast as possible. It's actually how you handle a vehicle, which actually requires skill. So for that, medium Bow Wow. And whoever this dude is that you have tattooed to your penis, I give you a shout out.
Yeah, you really shouldn't have said that penis line. You're never gonna live it
I
down.
should not have. I should have known better.
And it's kind of weird that he doesn't speak Japanese at all, but they just send him to Japan. But there's like all these Americans there besides being a Bow Wow. And I did enjoy the line where he's like, why can't you just find a nice Japanese girl like all the other white guys? Because he goes for like the American girl who's dating the Japanese mobster. Yeah. But I don't know. I still like the movie. I still thought it was fun.
It's literally one of my top 3 favorite Fast and Furious movies. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I like it a lot, and I was just double checking myself, but Justin Lin, who directed it, he was involved in producing Fast and Furious 6 as well. So, he sort of stuck around in the franchise. It wasn't just completely a one-off. He also produced Fast 5.
Yeah.
So he kind of, still did some stuff. He was also Fast and Furious as well. So pretty much after Fast Tokyo Drift, he was sort of involved in a lot of the projects that came after it.
By the way, the actor who plays Han in this film and in the other Fast and Furious films is named Sung Khan, and he's actually from Gainesville, Georgia.
No way.
Yeah, isn't that
That's
interesting?
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Gainesville, and he's done a lot of films. He's a good actor. I thought his character was good. He's been in stuff. I mean, he was in the Sylvester Stallone film Bullet, which is actually based off the Bullet Bourbon. I don't know if you know that. But he was also in like Hawaii, the new Hawaii Five-0 show, and some other things like that. So, good actor. It was an interesting spin to take it to Tokyo. I'm not mad at him. I don't think that they thought the franchise was going anywhere else.
Right.
I think they thought it was a dead end, and I think they thought, well, people like cars, so let's just keep making car movies until it got picked up with Fast 5 and things. But overall, I mean, pretty...
honestly, besides the Vin Diesel sort of cameo at the end, the little teaser, it could have been not a Fast and Furious movie at all. I mean, because it's not really related, except they sort of, like you said, retcon it in.
Yeah.
But
and they bring back the character, right? In
Which one?
The Southern speaking lead.
He comes back in I think it's 7. He comes back for 2 seconds because then they have realized, okay, we have to catch the timeline up. It's either 6 or 7. And he comes back and he has a scene with, I think it's Vin, and it's a quick scene, and that's about it. He doesn't really do much else.
Furious 7, you're correct. Sean Boswell, so 2015. And this is after Khan has died, of course. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, I keep saying Khan. Think of Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan. Han, after he's died, so because they do this weird I don't know, Tarantino.
It's the best thing. It's so comic. Excuse me. It's so comic book.
Yeah, they do this hey, we can just revise this, and they end up having Han killed, and that's when they bring in Shane.
So here's what needs to happen: Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift 2. Just to make it even more convoluted, they can have The Rock and Statham, and they can have Vin Diesel and Tyrese and Ludacris, and then they can have some other stuff just going on in Japan. Why not?
Tokyo, drifting back to Tokyo. There we go.
There you go. I like it.
Well, and I will say this about Medium Bow Wow. I did like that they did incorporate a musician as a side character, because that is true to the form. You had Tyrese Gibson, you had Ludacris, you had Ja Rule, who probably we shouldn't mention. But they brought in Medium Bow Wow at this film to kind of correlate with that sort of, I don't know, music, hip hop sort of culture. even though this film was supposed to be in 2013.
They didn't know that then. When they made this, they didn't know that.
No, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
They're like, in 2013, Limp Bizkit's gonna be even bigger.
That's
by
right.
then.
This song is gonna be so classic. How about the end scene of this movie? And now you guys haven't seen this in a while, but I don't know if you remember that after all this stuff goes down, like Han dies, he gets killed, and there's this there's bad blood between our lead and the entire Japanese mafia. And the way
Yakuza.
The Yakuza, thank you.
Yakuza.
Yakuza, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I'm saying right now. I drank way too much. The way that he resolves this is to have a race with DK, the Drift King, who's part of the Yakuza.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the nephew of some I don't know. And it's on his road.
This is where it's basically turns into Karate Kid 2.
It's already Karate Kid.
I know, but this is where it's Karate Kid 2. Remember where he goes to Okinawa?
That's true, yes. And there's that amazing Peter Cetera song, which I still love to this day. And so he has to beat him at his own game. And of course, his father, who lives in Tokyo, that he's gone to live with, happens to have, I don't know, a Mustang Fastback in his garage that he's just, I don't know, it's like, I've had this sitting here for a while. I don't really know what to do with it. Maybe you could Tokyo drift it? So he takes the car that he raced with Han, who also, by the way, which is interesting, is Han's like, here, use my car. I don't know you, white kid with a southern accent who's in Tokyo, but here, drift.
White privilege. White privilege is even in Tokyo. Like we're really out here with that.
For sure. And he drifts it right into a wall and destroys it, but yet the engine's still good.
That's
right.
So
he puts that in that Mustang Fastback, and then we get our okay, Tokyo, you may know how to drift. You may know how to actually drive cars in ways that are different than a straight line, but American cars are still better. Because we're going to put your Tokyo engines in our Mustang Fastback, and we're going to win, bitches. And you know what? Spoiler. He does.
I'm so eager to go watch this right now.
And another spoiler. He steals the girl from the guy who does the thing. Which is what the movie's about. And the thing that the movie's about in this movie is driving cars. So whether it's karate, or whether it is footloose dancing, or whether it's being a vampire, it all comes back to getting that girl.
The girl gonna get took.
You gotta steal that girl from the guy who does the thing that the town is doing. I'm just gonna say that even the guy in Lost Boys, who the only other thing I think he ever appeared in was Speed 2 with Sandra Bullock. He gets the girl from a very young Kiefer Sutherland because he does the thing. He's a better vampire than Kiefer Sutherland. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Jason Patrick, that's his name.
Jason Patrick.
Also an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack.
The
Footloose,
end.
Karate Kid, Lost Boys. I'm not sure about this soundtrack though. Medium Bow Wow. Is he on this soundtrack?
Probably. He has to be. There's no reason why he wouldn't be. Let's look it up.
He probably is.
No Ludacris on this one though.
No Tyrese Gibson either.
No. Now Ludacris, he's from Atlanta. He lives in Atlanta. He's very well liked. Apparently, he's a very nice guy. He has an apartment above a friend of mine.
He seems like
from everything I hear, pretty good guy.
He's going to be down here in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Sunfest. Yeah.
Nice.
He seems like a nice fella.
Yeah.
Now Tyrese Gibson, I'm not so sure about because you know why? He seems
Tried to beef with The Rock.
Yeah, don't mess with The Rock.
Mm-mm.
If you're choosing Vin Diesel over Dwayne Johnson, I'm gonna have some questions because Dwayne Johnson seems like a pretty solid dude.
Yeah, I mean,
He the same thing about
he sings in Disney movies.
Yeah, the guy
And
seems like a pretty solid guy. I don't know. Tokyo Drift. There was cool driving, and Medium Bow Wow had a car that was the Hulk. Do you remember this?
Yeah. No.
So our protagonist, Sean Blackwell, or whatever the hell his name is, he wants to see Little Bow Wow's car, and Little Bow Wow shows it to him, and it's like a mini. It's kind of like a Scion XB, but like tripped out to be the Incredible Hulk. Do you remember this, Curtis?
No, I don't remember it, but I'm very eager to remember. I have to jog my memory. I'm so ready.
So it's not a fast car. It's just like it's like stylish. It's got like the Hulk's like foot.
He's pimped his ride, is what you're saying.
He's pimped his ride.
I mean,
yeah.
2013, Pimp My Ride was not really a big deal anymore.
I think you mean 2006. Damn it. Damn it, chronological.
Back to it's Bow Wow on the soundtrack thing. It does not appear that he is. I'm looking right now. There's a lot of Don Omar and there's some NERD on here, but I do not see any Bow Wow. So that's a tragedy, honestly.
I'll tell you who was on that soundtrack. Limp Bizkit. And it's pretty bad if you're a musician in the film and they don't put you on the soundtrack.
You get bumped by Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Like,
You're like,
I'm in the damn movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Limp Bizkit. All right. Well,
Get my dad on the phone. Master P, where you at?
He is not his father, by the way. Let's get away from that.
Master P is everybody knows Master P's his dad.
No, Master P is Romeo's dad. Stop it. Get your reference right. Oh my gosh.
Who's Bow Wow's dad?
I don't know. I don't think he knows his dad. That's a whole thing. Oh. No, his dad is like a drug addict or something. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Brian, stop mixing up rappers before I call you.
I don't know. I could have sworn Master P was his dad.
Oh God.
Little Romeo.
Please get your brother.
Romeo.
Not Will Smith. I know that.
Maybe it's a chronology thing. He really is his dad.
It's just in 2013.
Here's my thinking. All the little guys are Master P's children. You got like the little Mosey and the little Zan and little Bill. Remember him? Bill Cosby's little cartoon character, Lil Bill.
Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne.
I don't have anything but heavy sides right now. Can we got to get away from this? I'm done.
I enjoyed this. I enjoyed my Tennessee whiskey, and I would like to say that.
And I'm not meaning any offense to any little people. Okay, at all. I respect them and their music and their skills. I assume they must. I don't know. I thought Master P was involved. Okay.
We're gonna do another podcast because this is what we do.
I don't know if we should.
Curtis is gonna come back. We're gonna talk about a comic book film, and this is gonna be an interesting one because we don't usually close on a pop quiz question. But I'm going to ask you guys one.
Are Master P's children? And did I offend anyone unintentionally?
My question was not that. But my question was going to be...
I apologize.
Who is the first African-American superhero to appear in films? Shaq. That's a good guess.
The first African American superhero. Shaquille O'Neal. he did that one movie where he was Steel.
Yes, that's true. He did.
No,
But
let me think. I'm going to think about this seriously, though. The first African American superhero in a film.
In a film, to star in his own major motion picture.
I don't know.
Well,
CB4.
the movie we're going to be talking about, I'm excited about.
I think it's Blank Man.
Well, I
My
was gonna
favorite
say-
African American
Or
superhero.
Meteor Man. Let's go Meteor Man.
Ooh, how about Leonard?
Leonard Part 6. I was going to say,
That's two
all
Bill
of the-
Cosby references in one episode.
yeah, I would say all those actually precede this, and you're correct. But we're going to be talking about Blade, aka Wesley Snipes, but not Blade 1, not Blade 2. Like Tokyo Drift, we're taking it right to number 3. We're going to talk about Blade Trinity.
Ooh, it's a good one.
It is, and there's Ryan
Is it-
Reynolds in there. So
Or is it a good one?
it's like Too Fast and Too Furious is the best of the Blade trilogy.
No.
That is the hottest. Of
No. No.
Listen.
What
My
did
taste
what did Little Romeo sing?
Oh shoot. Oh, what did he have? He had a song that was basically a ripoff of the Jackson 5 song. Oh, Romeo, give me a chance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
Yes,
That's
I do.
all I remember. And then he
Huh.
had a show on Nickelodeon for a little bit.
Okay. It's coming
wasn't-
back.
So I'm not maybe up to speed
I apparently am not either.
with rappers,
Pretty far behind.
little rappers from the 2000 era, but I will say I am familiar with Lil Sebastian.
You're gonna take it to the freaking Dark Even Parks and Rec? Stop it. Get out of my face. We're wrapping this up. Everybody, we're wrapping this up. I don't know. I know it's their podcast, but we are wrapping this the hell up.
That's probably a good idea.
All right, until next time, where we will be talking about Blade Trinity, Wesley Snipes, Jessica Biel's,
Bill.
No, Beal.
not her name, not Ryan Gosling,
Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt, that other Ryan Reynolds. He owns a gin company. Ha ha! I'm done.
I don't think Curtis wishes that he wasn't on this podcast anymore. Because
Much like our listeners. All right. Do you have any final thoughts, Brian?
on what?
I don't know at this
On
point.
Tokyo Drift?
Sure.
You
why
should go
not?
watch it.
Yeah, do watch it.
Way
It's
better than Too Fast, Too Furious.
wrong.
Facts.
Wrong.
Way better than most of the Fast and Furious.
I agree on that.
Facts.
I agree on that point. But
Mhm.
Eva Mendes.
She don't even show a titty. Stop tripping.
Eva Mendes.
Okay.
All right. All right. Until next time, we are the Bad Action Movie Brothers. My name is Braden. Your name is Brian. His name is Curtis. We are out.
All right. That went. I don't even know.